Hello ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, it is currently 7 o'clock. We are preparing ourselves to watch some Champions Queue in 1 hour. I'll be playing some Aphelios, but I'm so bad at it. It's terrible. Crowny coached me, but I think understanding guns is not enough for you to be successful on this champion. At least we got that part right and understood, so now we can be a Twitch chat pundit. Mad Lions versus T1. So we predicted a 3-0. We predicted some very specific champions to be a problem as well, and turns out they were. So coming into this series, I thought and had the expectations that Mad Lions would ban Lucian, Jace, Aphelios. But in the first game, they decided to let Aphelios through. So they banned Lucian, Nidalee, Jace, and then Gragas, Rakan, Vi. Very standard bans against Mad Lions. T1 obviously studied who their opposition is, right? First pick Cannon, nothing too surprising with the Jace out, Cannon Prio. This is a very European way of approaching things, and also something that we've seen in the LPL. Here I thought that this team would just pick Aphelios Maokai and then choose what comes next. I thought that that's what's gonna come, but it seems like Santa is the champion that the Eastern teams currently so far Prio very high, and you just can send it into a lot of the mid lane meta champions. It also enables a lot of junglers, and it can also be blind pick top. So Santa is just altogether very strong, scales well, doesn't have weak points in the game, and can kind of follow the rhythm of any game in the current meta game that is being played. So these go Santa, Aphelios, and then they choose jungle situation later. Here Mad Lions, they went for Annie, Lee Sin. I thought that this is what they prepared for here, so choose big Jinx, but instead they went Annie, Lee Sin. I thought they're gonna go like Annie, Jinx maybe. I think that here, this is where you already saw a flaw of Mad Lions preparation. In this tournament so far, it's like the Nautilus was played and all of the Eastern teams decided to spam it to pick it up, and it's pretty clear that this champion is something that you have to fear. And I think that Nautilus would have fit in a lot better here on 1-2, because it would allow you to then drop support and then leverage the Nautilus flex and maybe give it to Healy, right? Exactly like G2 do. Instead they pick Annie and Lee Sin, and then Lulu is on 3. So this is where, you know, T1 maybe could have been more accurate in their bans and maybe target the champions that, of course, you know, either Hilly plays in the Blitzcrank and the Pike and then picking Nautilus away, or setting up a scenario where you ban ADs like Xayah and Jinx and really target the limited pool of Karzi. But that didn't happen. Blitzcrank Ahri kind of split it up. And Elise Lissandra is banned on blue. I feel like the Lissandra is kind of, you know, showing already that Annie is going mid, especially with the Ahri out, Lissandra out. You just go for the Annie mid here, and then you look for a different support. I think that the moment the enemy team showed Lulu and Pike wasn't banned, I believe that Hilly just said, I want to play Pike with any AD into it. Just ban for yourself so I can pick Pike. Right? So here, the unique thing here, T1, they go Nautilus. I think they didn't think too much about the Pike, or, you know, were indifferent about the Pike. I think Pike, you know, any spot that Pike gets picked in, it will make your comp worse. It's like you're assuming that Pike is going to do enough work early for you to be able to transition that lead into something valuable, right? Pike gets one shot by Kha'Zix, Nautilus, you know, Santa, Lulu later can like ult, Wild Growth his ult, and, you know, Poly, and do have counterplay, but Pike is very strong early game, right? His early hooks, everything that he can throw at you is just super strong, super strong. I feel so down, expecting to be disappointed, and then being disappointed is not as bad as having your hope up and being crushed merciless. I think that maybe you should turn off your monitor, my friend, and take some time off the game, because that is a very extreme reaction to a loss. Just maybe take a break, or maybe, you know, if winning is so important to you, maybe like become a fan of an Eastern team. back to business. Xayah, Pike, and then Kha'Zix. Obviously here, I think red side draft is much better. It comes down to what can Mad Lions prepare early, right? What can they do early? And early they did. So taking a look at this game, you know, the early pressure from Pyke definitely landed. Some were traded back and forth. We have flash for flash, good business, use your hilly pressure. You know, he's exuding it because he's looking confident in the way he's pressing his W and pushing forward. You know, there's a lot of good stuff. It's a lot of good stuff. Elioya pushes for a dive, but Aphelios did in fact base already because they knew this was coming. Kazis is crossing into his bot side camps, and the way Mad Lions can convert this situation by pushing the enemy off is to then invade these camps on the bottom side, and then they can maintain the pressure. We get the smite here, a little smite battle of the Q. Very well done here by Elioyo. Owner didn't really prepare to burst, and Owner now with the usage of spells and Niski hovering, they decide to just abandon the bot side jungle. So already very good start here from Mad Lions. They just need to be careful about how they manage their bot wave, because this was a very deep trade that red side committed into, and here there's 2 potions in the hand of Gubyushi. Ideally, I think after you crash this 4th wave, I think looking for, like, basically this wave is dead. I think here you can look for base. There's nothing that is going to extend itself, and they lost a lot of HP, and Lee Sin will have to do the crab and then check on his top side. All is good, yeah? I think there is no potential dive situation here on bot. The enemy just had better conditions. I think the trade was poor, and I think they could have looked to base here on 4, but it doesn't matter, we continue. Here, this was a crucial moment in the game because this is really what propelled Lee Sin's conditions to the end of time. So here, Owner, his flash was atrocious. Niski flashed into the bush, but it might seem like a genius move from Niski, which partially it is, because it did work, right? It's either bad or it works, is what Daniil Dubov, Grandmaster of Chess, says. Here, Owner decides to flash over the wall, which completely puts him out of position, and then Faker doesn't have enough damage here to throw in a lethal towards Niski. The W is on cooldown, the E is on cooldown because Owner used both, and Elioya then gets the finishing blow here on our boy. The stun lands from the Q of Niski, and then Elioya can easily play around this. You know, a little bit scary here because Owner does in fact have double longsword because he based, right? But well played here on the Q cooldown, and you know, considering Kazi has no flash, no E, the Q should always land on a no boots target. So this situation now with Lee Sin being so strong, there's no way Kazakhs ever will contest. So this is the toughest portion of the game for Nautilus. Nautilus can not contest on mid because Lee Sin can be there, and the CC of Annie into kill. Very tough, so they can leverage 2v2 prio into crash into bot and then annihilate. And this is what we saw. For the majority of the game, the Pyke and the squad, they crashed through here and then they went into bot, dove, and then, you know, the only play really T1 has is to try to trade into topside, but Chasey should be aware of this. I say this because Chasey dying on top definitely gave the enemy a little bit of breathing room. In a lot of cases, he just needed to give up and take it easy. Looking at these conditions of the game, even though you have a Pyke on your team, these are fantastic conditions to be in. It's like Lee Sin is a lightning rod for, you know, just fighting, and he just wants to participate in any fight, and he's going to be unkillable. He's so strong. The Lulu is weak here, the Falfelios is weak, and the Nautilus is weak. Everybody's weak, you know? This could have been a wonderful situation. Chasey feels threatened on the dive. Mad Lions collapse, and of course they don't want to give this up. Nisk, you know, Faker is completely lost on the map here. Crazy things that T1 even thought that, you know, they actually believed in the idea of actually contesting this, because obviously, as we mentioned before, this Godringer Lee Sin, all Mad Lions need to do is just match the play of the opposition. So this is when T1 begin to say, yo, we can just try to kill the cannon and hope for the best. This isn't, you know, the greatest situation. I think here there was a little bit of a mistake from Mad Lions. I don't like the fact that Elioya is punching this turret. I think that Elioya and Hilly should have gone together to collapse on top and basically make their play redundant, someone's going to be defending mid, which is Nautilus in this position, and then the 4v4 on top side they will win. But instead Elioa is hitting the turret, and I think it's important that they actually defend Chasey. Chasey maybe made the call that he can defend the turret, but I don't think he can, and now Pyke gave a free kill to Kha'Zix. Here you could see Mad Lions didn't really agree on what they should do. In my mind, if I look at this, I think Lee and Pyke should go together, but of course if Lee doesn't go, then Pyke shouldn't be here and take, he shouldn't E like that, and he should definitely play around the fact that Kha'Zix could be in fog. But kind of a clever play here from Owner. Owner, the boner. We continue. Chasey doesn't get defended, and T1 get away with finding kind of an even trade, even in a situation where Lee Sin has Gore Drinker. The mid turret gets to survive, and Xayah and Lee are too slow to defend. I think that just when you're stronger, you should always look to match, and things would have been better. So we continue. Here, same pattern as before. Gore Drinker, Lee Sin, Annie crossing into bottom side. There should still be a dive. Anything that Annie touches with her Tyberski should be killable. I was kind of surprised here that they gave this up. I think that they could have just slammed their Mad Lions Dong here and gained a lot of value. I do realize now though that Tibers was actually on cooldown here for 5 seconds, so maybe this is what made them call this play off. So 3v4, you need to really be feeding it to go for 3v4 dive. Fundamentally, 3v4, usually you don't want to look for that, but I think that just champion specifically, they could have had a good time here. Now Niski Tibers this Nautilus, and then they have enough damage to find lethal. This is a very good fundamental play. Someone in the chat says, but not had TP. Well, TP luckily isn't an instant spell, so, if you're good, It's like they stun someone with Annie, they one-shot with Lee, they go out, there is almost no commitment. Like Nautilus TPing will be too slow, they're very weak champions. We continue, still it's like 3v4, unless you feel really comfortable about it, things are good. I think this was a kind of a bad mistake here by Chasey walking on that minion that Zeus can jump on, giving a free kill, completely unnecessary. Chasey had no flash from before. We don't like that. We continue a little bit forward. Mad Lions commit into this idea of breaking the enemy bot turret. They always have to defend, and the only thing T1 can do is look to kill Chasey. And very hard, at this point in the game to put vision to spot Kha'Zix, because in the end, it's like matching Kha'Zix is not super easy, is what I want to say. Like matching Kha'Zix is not the greatest. So basically it's like all you need to do is like T1 need to abandon bot, cross into mid, make a play on top, and you break the turret bot, base, reset, defend top side as soon as possible, and make sure that Chasey doesn't give anything up. And I think if the Annie commits into a bottom play and they break the turret, I think Chasey should just walk into mid and catch the wave that potentially Nautilus and the rest will push. They push a wave deep here. I wonder if anyone said Kumiyushi has wrong guns. Yeah, Lee Sin is good against Kha'Zix. This isn't like the greatest Kha'Zix game, but they just need like physical damage, so I thought they were just gonna play Viego. I think also it's just better to buy Eclipse. But we talked about that extensively. Another play onto Chasey. Chasey gave so much breathing room to the Kha'Zix to recover his build after buying the war destruction item, and the continuation here now is that Mad Lions choose, like this made me so nervous, it's like Mad Lions is just fighting, posturing forward. It's like at any point if T1 decide to back off, right, they could have gained value. Kha'Zix saves the day, right? It just kind of made me nervous when I'm watching it, Drake is spawning in, 20 seconds, 15 seconds, and Mad Lions is going for the big bag. They are trying to get Herald. They basically, they killed Zeus here on top, and I think Zeus was surprised, It's It's like he can be on Herald, they can look to kill. You know, T1's tempo is, you know, in a way they need to base. But the tricky thing here is that you actually give the enemy an opportunity to actually position on the Drake. I think in Mad Lion's point of view, they feel strong enough to be able to take everything. So they snack on the Herald, but pay attention to how this will affect their positioning here around the Drake. The mountains, of course, a very big deal because Nautilus is in the picture. And also, of course, AK Sante. So here, Chasey is TPing kind of dry. I think that he could have TP'd on the minions bot to have more pressure in the fight. Especially in a situation where he doesn't have, you know, a damn, what's it called? Flash. Maybe on Tribush as well. There's a ward there. I think that he could have done something more creative with this position here. And then here T1, they are very, very over-postured here. And I think still Mad Lion should be stronger in the fight, right? This is a Niski with Flash Tibbers. The main thing is that you need to just burn those abilities on enemy Aphelios or the enemy Kha'Zix, because those are the champions that you can easily put in lethal ranges. But the moment you burn all of your power here on Zeus here, he gets hooked and he manages to survive, he E's out and then W's, and then, you know, the wild growth cancels the Lee Sin damage. This will, you know, the strong Aphelios players, of course, someone like Gumayushi will recognize this opportunity here that the enemy team now used the Annie Tibbers and stunned as well Owner. He's kiting back, and this is giving Gumayushi so much space, right? Chasey is going for the kill, the Protobelt is flying, and Gumayushi is posturing forward here because he has so many chakrams and he's, you know, down to clown. Chasey gets, of course, the Kha'Zix, and Gumayushi gets a kill back. You notice in terms of how to team fight, it's like Xayah, Pyke, like these champions, it's very hard to fight. It's like red-sized composition really, really plays itself. You need to be very careful about how you use your kick, how you use your cannon ult, and how you set up with the Annie. You know, these are very, very important details. You know, it's the same as I mentioned before. It's like they lost position because they commit into the K-Sante play and the Rift Herald, which was all good. It's like, this isn't necessarily terrible, right? I think if they executed this fight here well, and they just aced them here cleanly, as I think on paper they should be able to do, then, you know, all is good, you know. They took Herald, they set up top wave for success, and they managed to get a good fight. I think that's perfectly fine. Considering the conditions in the game, I still think that if T1 was blue side, they would have broken the ankles of red side, right? Also, as I didn't mention, but Lee didn't have kick because he used it on K-Sante, and all of a sudden Gumayushi here with the Conqueror, he's just bonking away, he's gale forcing, gets hilly as well. You know, Gumayushi is just flowing. He's just flowing, and his teammates are playing around him. Kazi is doing his absolute best, right? He's very, very fed and very strong, but he has to play on very short range, and he played the situation super, super good. Kazi was really, really doing his absolute best. But, you know, it's just hard when you play a champion where everything that you can do is so heavily dependent on what the enemy team allows you to do. Because inherently, like, Xayah is going to have a hard time in these situations. We continue. Still, you know, a game that is very, very up in the air. This is probably the nail in the coffin, I'd say. In this situation here, look at Xayah's position. So Xayah chooses to go mid-wave, and Mad Lions are overstaying here. And this is just, you know, both sides are making a mistake. I think if 4 people are pushing here to fight, then Xayah should also just push here to fight because they want to take the red. If Xayah wants to hit the wave, you need to play in this position here and play a little bit safer, right? So both sides can be argued that they make a mistake. Here, Xayah is going against the team where they want to fight on red, and Xayah could be in position, right? But she chose to go on the wave, and when the moment you hit the wave, you should just play behind the red buff and play in that pocket, right? And then ideally, if someone shows on the top wave, that's when you can play the game, right? But here, Faker just flashes over, finds a hook, really good knock-up as well. And then there's just two additional kills for the opposition. And here, you know, tricky for Cannon because he's not itemizing Void Staff. It's like if you press tab and see triple mercs and double tanks, Abyssu, it's like average MR of enemy is like 100. You just need to buy Void. Very important. Zhonya's is arguable because, you know, Annie needs to be the one initiating the fights, and Zhonya allows her to maybe rotate 2 abilities and lets her get a lot of space, so that's okay. But Void, of course, is also a necessity for Annie this game to do damage. Now the rest of the game, right, it's like now you come to the realization that you are the one with a pike, you are the one with the weaker teamfight champions, so it's definitely tricky. I think the best thing that Mad Lions can do is just, on the timings where Kazi is strong and has better items, just look to pressure Nash, pressure Nash, pressure Nash, pressure Nash. A very important detail of this game as well is that Gumayusi doesn't have Mikaels, doesn't have Cleanse. The moment Mikaels is in the picture, this is, you know, this is super rough, you know? It's like, Mika is not being finished, no cleanse, this is your opportunity in. You need to make sure that this happens. I'm just surprised by someone in the chat that says, the level of analysis is so poor in Europe, Lemao, talking about builds, blah, blah. I don't know. It's like, we talked now for 20 minutes about different things, and I mentioned items once. This guy is just on some good kush, and that's okay. Everyone is welcome here. Everyone is welcome here. Even people like this. So we continue, right? The best thing that you can do as Mad Lions is look to pressure Nash, find a turn, one-shot Aphelios, and maybe you can play the game. Because if Aphelios dies, then maybe Lee can carry, because Lee will be very tough to kill, right? Very, very tough to kill. Very tough to kill. So you just start Nash, last hit it with the Desire Feathers, try to accelerate the game, try to get the Nash to break the base, and let yourself go, you know? Tough that you lost the mountain, because you could be on Soul Point now, and then the window of influence for Gumayusi on Aphelios would have been, you know, tighter. But Mad Lions now, they try to go for this play that we talked about, which I think is perfectly fine, right? I think they could have bursted it way better. It's like the smite is quite poor, like the Zaya Feathers, it's like the timing. It's like, I don't know if this was like coordinated, you know, because the Zaya Feathers get pulled at 2.7k, right? That's kind of like a big number to choose to burst on, because Zaya does a shit ton of damage here. And I think they chose to burst at 2k. They can always do it very easy. Zaya Feathers together with Q, Lee Sin Smite. I think that's like super cool, no problem at all, right? But the fact that the owner steals this is a very big mistake. Very big mistake. So owner the boner steals it. Zeus kites back. There's a big fight here. Clean Nautilus gameplay from Faker. But he does trade kills, and now things are beginning to look very grim. Kazi saves the situation with killing Gumayusi here, allows Elioya also to get a kill back, which is a super big deal. The kick into Q, into E for the damage burst. Elioya kites away. Important here, because if they don't get these 2 kills, then, you know, it's rough. Still, I still think that the best play for Mad is to just try to force as much as possible. But things like this, I think, is what made teams a little bit more disappointed, you know? Getting like dry queued and Niski like walking forwards and just getting slapped because he wants to ult Zeus, burning Flash. Like his Flash is such an important asset coming into the third Drake that they will take, right? This is just rough to watch, right? This is where, you know, people might be like disappointed, if anything, right? Because this was kind of silly, like dry queue, 2 people get dry queued to defend this tier 3, and then Niski just kind of just walking on top of the enemy to ult Zeus here. It just seems so uncoordinated and flat. But still, you know, Mikhails is not finished. Mikhails is not finished. The reason I talk about this so much is because now when this Nasher spawns, I think this is where you have the best odds as Mad Lions to potentially do something impactful in the game. Just smash Nash, do Nash, try to leverage Niski Flash to just break Gumayusi's ankles. And then maybe this Lee Sin with this monster build is going to be able to carry the game. But now the gold is ticking, Korea is just pinging how much gold he wants. They are just trying to defend the Nash. It's like T1 is super scared to be put in a fight situation at this point because they can easily one-shot Gumayusi unless he plays like a damn god, which is entirely plausible and possible. Korea eventually finds the gold to base. You see he's channeling base now. He's piecing out. T1 are posturing and they're just making sure that they can spot the opposition. Now the Mikhails comes in and now he's taking the portal. He's back in the position and now the game has no potential at all. Finished. And we'll see it in probably the quickest Mikhails that I've ever seen. I know people like to gas up Korea, rightfully so, right? But sometimes for very silly things. But this fucking play here from Korea is crazy. We looked for a desperation play, you know, it's tough. Just look at this speed of the Mikhails here, guys. Look at the speed of the Mikhails. That is insanity. So when Mikhails is finished, you know, then there's like, you have 0% of winning. It's like, after the Mountain Drake, you had like 20% chance of winning. After the fight on Raptor, you had like 5% chance of winning. After Mikhails is finished, 0. 0. Absolutely 0. So it's like, it's very obvious, Narco Power, that you are just really writing things in bad faith. So to spare everyone brain cells, we're just gonna ban you. You know, it's like, it takes something very special to get banned in the YamatoCannon chat. It's like very few people get banned. But this is like, bro, you are arguing with air. Just breathe it instead to make your brain function. We continue. Game number 2. It's like, he was Twitter incarnate. It's like, I was like, I'm saying Mikhails really, like the best odds man had was to fight when there was no Mikhails. It's like, yeah, so, yeah, sure, man. It's not like they weren't winning fights before Mikhails. It's like me saying Mikhails is a good thing and like the only window Mad Lions can maneuver around. Nah, it's okay. It's okay. We banned him. It's fine. It's just funny to me. It's just hilarious. All right. Mad Lions did no adaptation. They were happy with how things played out, but they chose to pick Xayah. They're kind of worried that Xayah wouldn't make it through here on 4-5, and they were happy to play the Pike, Blitzcrank, and Rel, which is of course very greedy, right? I think still Aphelios is rough. Cannon gets first pick, Kesanta Aphelios. It's like T1 don't change anything at all. They get very premium picks, 1-2, and they're happy to just play it out. Lee Sin, Xayah gets picked, and then Lulu on 3, and in this position, Nautilus Annie gets banned 4-5, which changed, of course, what they can pick on 4. They assumed, Mad Lions, that the prio on 4 is going to be Nautilus over Annie, and then 5 pick the jungler. But instead, here, the pivot was to pick Maokai, and then to set Kesante mid into the Lissandra. I think blind picking Lissandra when enemy shows Kesante is very hard. So blind picking a strong mid laner is not super easy when you are showing Kesante flex. I think here in this spot, I thought that maybe they're just going to pick Ahri, but they decided to pick Lissandra to just combo with Lee. This game follows the exact same pattern as the previous game, but it's just harder to snowball. It's like in this situation, it's like already you know that if this game reaches a certain point, then Rel will be useless. Lee Sin will struggle to actually find, you know, opportunities. Flanking against a Maokai and a Karma that can easily deny Cannon. It's like red side will heavily outscale, and you are in a position with Mad Lions where you have to turbo snowball the game. And you're doing it with Rel Xayah into Aphelios Lulu. It's just so damn difficult. You have Lee Sin, Xayah, Rel, so maybe you have some opportunities to find some gang angles, but you need to do so much work. And considering how much work you did in the first game, you need to outdo yourself even harder and then win on blue side. Very tough. Looking at the game, they did manage to find a little sneaky beaky kill here on the Maokai level 1. So that's some good prep, right? Owner likes to go for the Pixel Bush ward with Karma collapsing, and they were just sitting in it. And they found the kill. Unfortunately, Hilly and his Ignite got it. So that's tough. But Ruby Crystal isn't at the end of the day. And the tricky thing about Xayah Rel into Aphelios Lulu is that level 1, you don't have good ways of all-inning. And also, every time you try to look for an all-in, the price you pay is so damn high. Compared it to a Pike, compared it to a Nautilus, compared it to a Blitz, it's like you pay the price of mana and you don't pay that much of a price in terms of HP. But if you like W in with Rel and you look for something, or you try to flash W, it's a very, very big risk proposition that you're playing with. And that's why a lot of people don't like playing Rel, right? It's like it just comes with so many elements of risk. We proceed in the game. I felt like looking at how Mad Lions played, I think a lot of things were quite uncoordinated. I think in terms of how they played the 2v2 here on mid, they were not as lucky as the previous one when Owner misplayed. They didn't find the burst on Faker. I don't remember exactly what happened. I think we're gonna get a replay right after because Owner kills. We don't get the replay. We don't get the replay. As silly as it sounds, it's like already in these conditions of the game, it's like Lee Sin 1-2-1, you know, after dying mid and then dying on the dive mid, it's like already the game is kind of over. I know sometimes it's overused on streams and so forth, but these conditions is really, really like impossible to muscle your way through. Very tough. Very tough. He was kind of strange here. Niski, of course, this is his base timer, but he gets cancelled by Lulu. And he could have already been, you know, recalling in a safer position, and then maybe they could look to contest Herald. But instead they are pursuing and pushing further, and now Niski is basing in a compromised position after being spotted on the ward. Niski just kind of dies. This looks very awkward. This is rough. And the red side composition now having Herald. Oof. It's tough, guys. It is tough. It's just red side composition just outscales you by every metric. And this time Gumushi is playing with cleanse too. Like there's no miracle fight that you can actually look for. Yeah, T1, I think they should have just pulled the Herald into bottom side because Kamo was the first one to connect. And then it would have been easier for, of course, Kesante to connect. Always pull the Herald towards the direction of the opposite way of where you are, you know, contesting from. So in this case, they contested from top. So just pull the Herald into the side you didn't contest through, so your teammate has an easier time of connecting. I think here, Upset mentioned this on stream. It's like if they just throw everything they have on career, right? With the ult of Xayah, they can probably one-shot her and combo her. and they can actually kill her, and then maybe walk away from the situation without Gumayushi getting a return kill, but they didn't have the damage to find the lethal on Korea, and in the end he gets to rotate his spells and Gumayushi gets to hit a lot for free. Very big. Eventually the nail in the coffin. This attempt at a 3v3 on bottom side, the donor was defending. Healy flash and jumped in because the enemy team doesn't have flash. Probably one of the better opportunities you're going to get in the game, and now the game is finished. That's why I spent so much time analyzing game 1, because game 2 and 3, not much to say, guys. Not much to say. It's just rough across the board. Yeah, they went for the Scion strat, right? The Scion just crossing into bottom side jungle. I think that this is a cool idea that of course you can replicate. Most important thing is that you can actually push bot, right? And here they went for the variant where you push 2 into crash to dive the enemy when they are still level 1. Maokai and Scion showed up after taking the camps, and they also burned Niski Flash. This is not the way you want to start a game 3 if you want to reverse sweep, I tell you that much. They tried to pull out all stops with the Twisted Fate and the Ezreal. Well, I think it's very optimistic as well for Kasi to be playing Gathering Storm. Gathering Storm, man. I think you just play Biscuit Cosmic. Gathering Storm popped once this game. That's crazy to even think about. Crazy to fathom. T1 stacking wave 1 with wave number 2. They're hitting it hard, and now Zeus is doing the good job of channeling the Q just to make sure that he is the one, you know, tanking it, using his passive to punch the shit out of Hilly. The toughest here as well for Annie, it's like, Annie's a champion that, you know, you skill E to just like harass and to do like short trades in lane, but it also means that you have no way of triggering your stun. So it's just the worst spell that you can have for a potential dive, because at least maybe like you can see someone trade Elioya's here on time after doing wolves into base. Very tragic when you gotta do that as a Lee Sin, but job's done, right? It's like Lee Sin gets a kill, they manage to crash the wave. Ezreal's completely fucked, only has gold for boots. Scion will now be a potential liability, but what you can do as red side now is that you can break any wave on bot, dive any time on bot, and Scion suffering will be the least of your worry, because it's like Sion's going to be Scion anyway, you know? So we fast forward a little bit to just look at the Gumayushi montage that is going to appear in front of us. Elioyo is down here to defend the dive that is coming because they're stacking a wave. Elioyo is punching. Karzi already E'd. Like here, Karzi has 7 seconds cooldown on E. Kiria doesn't hit the W. He tries to clip it through the wall. And now these two brothers here, the chunky bros, the Maokai and the Tamkench, are just showing and exuding their presence here. Elioyo is still very weak from before because he lost all his bot side camps, right? And he also just did wolves into base, into bot, and then base and bought a longsword. Not super exciting, right? Owner knows that he can just cancel the Q of Lee, so he's just posturing on him. And now it's just completely lights out. Completely lights out. Stuff. A brutal ending. Sadly, well, sadly or luckily, depends on which side you're on. This didn't break the record for the quickest game internationally. The quickest one is actually 15.57. What is the counterplay to that Sion strat? Well, the counterplay is basically bring your top laner to fight to the death. Either you're stronger there, or you fight to the death on the bot wave while your jungler is like fighting. Another play that you can do, which is a very, very like exotic one, is that your jungler waits and does golems. So basically, if you predict that your enemy is going to do this, he does golems. Maokai doesn't get level 3, and he's already bought his level 2, and he can push them out. So this is like the dark technology, okay? Is that you see the enemy enters because you have a ward. You go to your golems, and you just do your golems. They spawn a little bit later, but you just do your golems, and then you can fight with your bot lane in your own jungle when they cross. This is like the really, really dark technology that I'm revealing to you guys. Very dark technology. Use it wisely, okay? The sad part is 4 out of 5 Mad Lions members was listed as first all-pro team for LEC. Yeah, for their performance in the spring split. What do you mean, best of zeros, Australia? I don't know what that means. So, to summarize the series, you know, always I get the questions like who was underperforming, who was better. It's like Mad Lions was clearly the weaker team, you know. It's like Chase was having a hard time, he was getting pressured by Zeus super hard, was dying to ganks. You know, Niski was having a really rough series, right? It's like the Annie was, you know, game 1 was decent, but like the team fights for Chasey and Niski was super, super bad, I think. Heimer can't get dove like this. Well, yeah, of course, if you can fight to the death on the bot wave and you can push and the enemy can't crash the wave, then you don't do this, right? It's like, they do this specifically. The Sion strat works only because you have pushing bot and stronger bot. And if Marco is level 3, Sion's level 1, and Tamken's Jinx at level 2, even Heimerding is gonna die. His turrets are not gonna save him. But Heimerding can fight on the wave bot level 1 and can fight the push. If you don't hit the wave and crash the wave, it doesn't matter, right? You can't do this shit. You pick Sion yourself into enemy Sion. So you were just, I asked you to clarify and you were just making a unfunny joke. Okay. So, Niski was having a really hard time, I think. I think Chasey was also, it's just, keep in mind, it's like any team that has strengths, it's way easier to show your strengths. It's way easier to show your strengths against weaker opposition. It's like when you play against tougher opponents, it's like the game just has more layers to it and more depth. Simple mechanics like lane phase and how you have to play lane, you have to put so much more effort into considering these things. So a lot of the other things are going to be a lot more imprecise. And I think that is important to keep in mind when your favorite team is getting smacked around by the balls of Korean teams, right? It's just that they are being pressured on levels that they are not used to. In every decision they make, in every fight they take, in lane phase, and you know, everything is just going a little bit faster. And in those circumstances, you know, there's going to be a lot more mistakes, because think about it like this. You have a certain level of mental bandwidth, okay, that you're used to operating under, right? You have a certain level of mental bandwidth, and if you can focus that less on lane phase notions, then you'll be able to tune into the map more. You'll be able to pay attention a lot more, right? And when you're being pressured on these more minor things that you're not used to being pressured on, a lot of the other things will also fall short. That's why, you know, your favorite team like Mad and G2 look worse, right? There's also that element of, it's like executing on those same ideas. It, like, fundamentally, how you lane and how you set up always is the same, right? And if you can't do those things well or at a level that is, you know, comparable to the opposition, you don't get to show anything that you're capable of. So there's that. The more extreme example is, right, it's like, I can 1v9 with Nidalee in my gold games, but I cannot win on my master account. It just helps so much, right? It's like the average level in Korea and also the LPL is so damn high. The average level is so damn high. So the pressure that you put under to actually be able to perform, you like, it's like that tension you're under, it's like you're molded by it and you adapt to it, you know? And in Europe and North America, you get away with way more. And I always get asked, yo, what does EU and NA need to do? The issue is, I don't think there's anything realistic to do. I said this already 2019. It's like 2019, I said, what's going on right now with G2? It is never going to be able to replicate itself, because there was a situation where G2 managed to be innovators, and at the same time, individually, they all peaked. They all individually peaked. Wunder peaked. Wunder's peak was in 2019. Mickey's peak was in 2019. Caps was insane 2019. Perks AD was really fucking good. Jankos was fucking smurfing, you know? He fit that puzzle really, really well, you know? And I think that is not something that is ever going to happen again. It's like, for example, you say boot camp in Korea. Yeah, well, it's like, you know, it's like you boot camp in Korea. During that time in Korea, you will have good form, but that will fade away because you're not being pressured the same way in practice, right? Thing is, right, it's like if you're in a situation where you're not under that tension, it's like, I can tell you this, right? T1, they are under pressure all the time. It's like they did really fucking well in the split, but they slip up during a couple of weeks and there's demons breathing down their neck. So in my mind, right, it's like when people ask me, it's like, what should the West do to catch up to Korea, right? It's like, it's insanely difficult because Korea is so far ahead. In terms of the next generation of players and the standard that they are being put under and the pressure they're being put under, even in solo queue, is already different. And that is going to produce better players. The amount of legendary players they have, in order for players to even get their foot through the door, to even be in the same room as them and to compete against them, the competition is fucking stiff and hard, you know? And this inherently just produces, it's like great players beget great players. It's like people saying, yo, it's like Europe should just play more Champions queue. Like, there's probably a solution, right? It's like, if I was in a position of power, I would say, like, I would come together with the LEC teams and I would say, yo, we need to fucking dedicate a couple of hours a day where there's fucking, you know, people need to sit down and play Champions queue so we can move away from the solo queue structure, right? And then we would coordinate together with the teams that are relevant and make mixed teams and fucking play Champions queue. But currently, Champions queue is currently like Brazilian players, and some of them are really, some of them are good. I would say the Brazilian players are better than the ERL players. But there's a lot of ERL players that just make these fucking matches completely lopsided. It's like you have Kyria, Zeus, and then you have like, I don't know. It's like, I don't want to call out names, but it's like the matchups are just completely like flopped, you know? And sometimes, like, it's especially the worst when you have junglers. It's like junglers that aren't just on the same level. Like, they don't know the macro game. They don't know the gameplay. Like, it is just terrible. The thing is, you say LEC players should always have priority, but it's also like, it's like a perception thing. It's like a perception thing where if Champions queue looks dead, it will be dead because no one will queue up. Right? That's a tough thing. It's like no one's queuing up. And that is the problem. That is like an additional problem. If League made a prize pool for top 10 challenges, I think it'd be way more competitive. It would be way more poisonous too. People would cheat, people would steal, people would do disturbing things when money is involved. But yeah, I think there's ways to improve Champions queue and make the LEC teams a lot more engaged in it. I would push really hard for this if I was in an LEC team right now. Just to make the LEC players actually play with one another. I would like grab Vitality, G2, Mad, who else? Astralis, and I would just like the top 6 teams. I would say, yo, let's just fucking come together and play LEC. BDS, let's fucking come together and play some fucking Champions queue. Why are we wasting time? Just fucking put these players together. You can do comms, you can do no comms, doesn't matter. Fuck it, play. You don't want to play? Fuck yourself. You're benched. Alright guys, now we move on to the prediction portion of C9 versus Bilibili. So I watched Bilibili, right? And I watched Bilibili the whole year, C9 the whole year, okay? Of course, it's not that harsh, right? It's like sometimes you want to take some time off, sometimes you want to rest. That's okay, right? But there needs to be like some level of initiative, you know? It's like, you miss one day, fine. But you miss 2 days, okay. It's like, you don't want to play Champions queue at all? Then you need to fucking conquer whatever demons are holding you back from wanting to practice in a better environment, right? I was very harsh. I'm not gonna fucking bench a player for not wanting to play Champions queue, right? Okay. C9 versus Bilibili. I watched both of these teams the whole year, and I think, you know, C9, I think that they played the whole split just being individually better than everybody else. I think the support pool in North America is the weakest one by far. Like, it's not even close in terms of what kind of major region supports. It's like, especially with the downfall of Code JJ, right? It's like the supports from North America have been very unimpressive, right? When I look the whole year. I think Huhi has been fantastic in play-ins, right? Huhi has been fantastic. I think a big reason for Golden Guardians looking better, right? A big reason why Golden Guardians is looking better is because Licorice is performing better and also Huhi is performing better. So I don't want to, you know, like really break him down there, right? But Sven had his champions that he performed good on, and then he had his champions that he really performed really bad on. And I think that is a potential flaw, right? I like the Sven with the Lulus and the range supports. I think that's good. Sometimes with the melee supports, they look kind of wonky, right? But this is just a minor detail we can continue. I think Sven is still one of the better supports from North America for sure. Berserker, finally we have a situation where, you know, both ADs play everything that you need to play, right? So that is going to create a very interesting dynamic, right? Berserker can play Aphelios, he's going to play Aphelios, he's willing to play the Jinx, he's willing to play the Zeri Lulus, he's willing to play the Zayas, he's willing to play Lucian Nami with Sven too, right? So that's going to create a little bit of a more interesting dynamic when it comes to the AD carry pool. Maybe there's circumstances where you can free up bans. You can create circumstances where you potentially do something different. Draven is also another thing the Berserker plays. Berserker is definitely the strongest performing player in my opinion when it comes to Cloud9. I think Blabber is also, a very strong jungler, sometimes makes some mistakes here and there, but they always recover quickly. Eminence as well, I think, is a player that mechanically plays super, super well, but he's very feast or famine, right? I think Fudge and Eminence both, when they're playing carries, when they are shitting on opposition, then they are very, very good at it. When they're playing against players that misplay against them and that they're playing against players that are weaker than them, I think that they can snowball leads super, super well. But if they get disrupted, sometimes they try to, find more than is necessary, right? It's like you have a situation with MNS, for example. We had some Jace games where he had like a trade or a gank that didn't go well. Then all of a sudden, he ends the game like 2-8, just because he's trying to pressure and look for more. And I think that can get sometimes dangerous when you play against players that can play better than you individually, right? I think C9's biggest strength coming out of this region is that individually they were fucking better than everyone else in the league by a, they could find themselves in weaker game positions and figure it out. They could find themselves in strong game positions and just close out with ease. And I think now when they're going to be playing internationally, I don't think that level of dominance is going to carry over, right? Because C9 did have some iffy early games that things didn't really work out well for them. They had crazy positions in the game where, their setups weren't as clean as they should. Like their path to victory in North America, it's like I never really doubted that they would win, but some of the games along the way definitely made you like think twice, right? And I think, that's like a good point, right? If someone asks me, does GG beat C9? It's like, I don't know how much C9 could improve, right? It's like, we didn't see C9 play, they're coming in dry. And I think it's like, from what I see, it's like if this current Golden Guardians would rematch the C9 that we saw in the finals, I would definitely believe the Golden Guardians would win against C9. It's like Golden Guardians have improved their setup in the game. They have improved their play with Licorice and Huhi and how they approach fights, and they've retained the strengths that got them all the way to the finals. So I could definitely say a world with Golden Guardians is the better NA team than C9 currently, but this is not knowing how well and how much C9 has improved, because that is crucial, right? And I believe Bilibili is going to be a favorite in this match because, like, I would think the C9 would have to improve a lot in order to, like, win against Bilibili. Because in the end, right, it's like, pound for pound, I'm comparing Elk and On to Berserker and Sven. And Berserker and Sven was a fucking big advantage in North America. In this match, it's no longer a big advantage. Maybe they can be good enough to compete, but Golden Guardians were taking names against C9's bot lane in a BO5, and then GG looked like infants against Bilibili's bot lane. So Bilibili is definitely in form, right? I think Fudge is a player that can play many different styles, and I think this is a strength. Bin is a player that is growing accustomed to this idea of playing tanks and playing a more bot side centric game in his team. And I think Fudge has more experience in this, and this can be very helpful. I think that, Jun as a player is very feast of famine. Like, he can be very strong, has a very good Nidalee, insane Kindred. He has a very good Virite, which will be a very contested pick. I think that, all in all, like, there is some room for Bilibili's players like to maybe underperform, but I think that people are too heavily eyeing what they did in the play-ins. anyone who watched Billy the whole year and C9 the whole year will have the impression that this will be a one-sided affair. And that's my take. Sure, we can talk about, you know, intangible things like Yagao doesn't perform internationally, right? Or, you know, this is my favorite that I always dispute, right? People say, yo, Ben got gapped by Licorice. That's always a funny one. Ben didn't get gapped by Licorice. Licorice played well, but Ben was the better performing top laner. So sure, Yagao and Jun are definitely players that might give you opportunities to come back. Been underperformed, you can't deny that though. Sure. Like people say, guys, I will show you. So this is the game that people reference to, right? Billy versus GG game 2. So this is what people reference to, right? So let's just take a look at it, guys, because we reviewed this a million times. Like, look, even the timestamp is perfectly there, okay? So when people tell me Bin heavily underperformed, so Bin walked down mid here. So right now he's playing Nar into K'Sante, and there was a situation where K'Sante got killed, right? And, you know, Vio's playing into bottom side and Gragos is hovering top. So they are even right now, right? It's like Bin is not getting dumpstered. But Licorice is doing well. Keep in mind, I don't want to... It's like, I don't want to take anything away from Licorice because Licorice had a massive glow up. He did really, really well. Respect to Licorice, right? So, here he walks down here. He kills Gory and basically he commits here, burns his flash, and now the Vi is, you know, sharing the minions together with Nar and they push in the turret, right? During this time, Keikona, it's like, I said underperformed, not heavily, you're gaslighting me. I'm not talking to you. Who are you, my friend? Yo, Yamato, why would you coach or even be assistant for LEC team? I've declined like 5 LEC offers this year. I want to coach a team that I feel passionate for. So Bin here walked down to kill the Yasuo, right? He killed the Yasuo, he gave up top. So already now, K'Sante has a CS advantage, okay? We're aware of this. K'Sante has CS advantage, and he took 2 platings, which he then converted into a full completed item, right? This is already quite rough here for Bin, right? Already on paper, K'Sante is in super, super good conditions, right? We continue. Now, just because of the conditions of bottom side, Billy are just playing at the bottom side. They want the Jax and the Lulu to have a good time, right? Jax and Lulu, yo, I mean Jinx and the Lulu. Jinx and Lulu, you guys are so strong. I just want to take the Drake. I want to dive bot. I want to fuck them up. What does Golden Guardians do? They cross map, right? They cross map. Bin is now threatened to get dove, and Bin abandons. So now this lead is ballooning. Is Bin now trolling, or is Bin playing correct? Oh, well, Bin is getting dumpstered right now, right? Bin is getting dumpstered. He is getting fucked. He's getting so outplayed. He's getting so outplayed. Why is Stick say 0-4? Well, that's a whole different story, right? Yeah, Licorice is definitely star walking. So here, finally, Bin is like, oh, okay. They killed my mid and jungle. I mean, my jungle and mid for no fucking reason at all, right? Because Jinx is farming and they could just defended mid. And he's like, oh, they killed. So I finally woke up. I can finally woke up because hopefully they use like their tools to kill them, right? But River's like, fuck that shit. I'm gonna go murder you. And, you know, Bin didn't farm a top wave for the last 3-4 minutes, okay? So, Licorice, once again, Licorice once again played very good this game. They caught Yagao, they caught Jun, and Jun really ran it down this game, and Licorice really converted his lead. I can't put the blame on Ben for this one. Come on, lads. Come on, lads. You know? Golden Guard is good setup. Well played. You know? Good shit. But okay. Back to the initial prediction, right? It's like Ben is still a fantastic player. He has a body of work this year on champions that are still relevant in the current meta. The meta hasn't shifted or anything. Ben is a fucking lethal top laner to lane against. And to walk in to this BO5, if C9 is sitting there thinking, oh, Ben underperformed, it's going to be a cakewalk, fudge play Fiora, they're going to get a reality check. And I know that C9, of course, they are very smart. They're not going to think like this. I'm just referencing to some of the things that we seen in chat, right? So Bilibili here, I think that Bilibili should be favorite. I will be impressed if C9 take a game. If C9 take a game, I'll be very impressed. If they take 2 games, I'll be mind blown. Mind blown if they take 2 games. And if it goes so far for them to win, I'll be in shock and I will apologize. I will apologize. I think C9, I think currently from what I've seen, which is a long time ago, right? C9 could get better and it might change, but currently I think Golden Guardians could beat C9. But this is, of course, not knowing what C9 did the last month. Okay? JDG is much better than Bilibili. So Golden Guardians are going to get smoked and roasted hard. Mickey and Roma said C9 are surprising them in scrims. I don't know what that means. What should I do with that? I've been surprised by how bad people are sometimes. I've been surprised by how good people are. Mickey predicted C9 to win. Okay. That's interesting. I can only work off of what I've seen, right? I can tell you this as well, guys. It's like when I was in Korea and I was in Sandbox, we were winning scrims against top esports. We were winning scrims against all of the Chinese teams. The Chinese teams weren't that great in scrims. And this is a Sandbox that was 7th, 6th, okay? Like, yeah, I would be very impressed if C9 win a game. That's my take. How would it look? I think it has to be like off the back of a collapse of Yagao and Jun. If these guys collapse and make terrible mistakes, like that can happen. And then C9 get good positions in the game and they play disciplined and well. And they have very, very good draft prep and very good strategy coming into this patch. Could be fantastic. It's like, does MNS want to play Nautilus? I haven't seen him play it. It's like the MNS champions, like the MNS favorites, right? It's like I could see him play like Lissandra. I could see him play like, you know, Ari maybe. But it's like the MNS favorites, they're not that great right now. It's like I think the best mid laners right now is like Nautilus, Gragas, Lissandra, Keisante, Ari. Like these to me are like the most OP mids. So it's like I'm curious how that's gonna plan out and pan out, you know. Blabber, I could see Blabber play anything. I could see Blabber play anything. I think that's cool. Jun kind of plays everything too. I think that's cool, right? Fudge, I hope Fudge comes into this matchup being the facilitator. Like a Fudge, I think he has the potential to form himself into like a North American 369, you know? Like that. I hope that's the approach for this one, you know? But it's like if there's an angle in, maybe it's off the back of a collapse of Jun and Yagao. But I think that's a tough ask. I think in the end as well, it's like the bot lane, the game is so bot lane centric, and it seems like Bilibili is aware of this, right? So I think that they're going to just really funnel everything into that, right? It's like looking at these series, right? It's like Genji had a kind of a unique approach, right? They had the Fiora in the game, and they had a game of Tristana top right. But what T1 showed today, I really like this, what T1 showed today. Just like, set up your Aphelios and your AD for success and have a good time. I really, really like this heavy indexing to your AD carry, and I hope that Bilibili also do this, you know? So, I think Bilibili 3-0. Sorry, not sorry. All right. That's it for my takes here on C9. How about we do this? Let's pull up C9 solo queue accounts. Let's have a little sniff, yeah? I did prepare them, so let's have a little sniff on what they're cooking. Let's see what they're cooking, guys, because they played a lot here in Europe. All right. So we have Peace Elo MVP playing some Aphelios. Jinx, 46% win ratio on Aphelios. Aphelios is very hard to play in solo queue, let's be honest. So we don't judge this too harshly. Yinx, Zaya, Ezreal, a lot of Ezreal games. And then our boy is playing Nautilus and Rakan. Okay, Zvenilan. Alright, we like that. Cool. And then we have Blabberfish with some Nidalee games and some Kha'Zix games. 100% win ratio. There we go. All right. Kha'Zix 100% win ratio. As no surprise here, Blabberoni, of course, plays the role. Blabberoni mechanically super fucking strong. The NA jungle goat, no problem. And then we have Oswald Yuki, which is the top laner, playing Jace. So like if Oswald Yuki is going into that series playing Jace, I wouldn't be so excited and happy. As an example, right? I can accept. And then we have Eminus. Eminus has the least amount of solo queue games because he's spamming Champions queue. This guy is active in Champions queue every fucking day, right? Every fucking day. People saying Yaga was a fraud. Like, you know how many best of fives Bilibili needed to win to get here? Like, you know how crazy that shit was? Let me just pull that up for you guys. I'm just checking Champions queue if a game popped. There's no lobbies. The fact they had to win those means they were pretty far down in the standings. Sure, mate. So, 3-1, 3-0. Lose Lose a bracket. 3-2. 3-2. And then lose. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. Now, I'm a believer of Billy. Let's see. Let's see, guys. I'll remember the names of the people who said C9's going to win. Because you guys are going to call me out if C9 win. So I need to be able to call you guys out if Billy smokes them like Texas barbecue. No sauce. Just ketchup. No sauce. Okay? I'll give you guys this. A little piece of a nugget of hope, okay? C9 have the biggest chance of causing an upset win out of anyone. After watching the first 2 European matches. Damn right. K-Kona. Beans. Thank you very much, guys. Will you do ChatGPT speech for C9? I could. For Mithy, I'll do it.